This is it. This is the game. I'm not doing an intro. This is the game right here. Google actually had a picture of a rat with a backpack. At least I drew him a sword. Playing Backpack Hero can make you feel like you're the smartest rat in the land, assuming you like reading and strategy, but mostly you're just lucky and got a good item set this run. Sometimes you'll be playing runs with a stupid grin on your face, other times you'll be getting a tension headache from all the mental gymnastics you're doing to try and figure out the best way to arrange your items. Backpack Hero is an indie game, role-playing video game, casual game, adventure strategy game. But wait, that's not all. We're gonna have to deduct points from Google for not mentioning that the game's main genre is roguelike. So why don't you just figure it out and stop misgenreing video games in 2024, Mr. Pachai? Anyway, the game is developed by the Jaspel, whose logo is a pixelated rat. The story is this: you play as a rat named Purse. You have dreams and aspirations to both find out what happened to your mother and rebuild your hometown of Haversack Hill after the economy plummeted and everyone dipped. You accomplish this feat of rat engineering by pillaging a nearby dungeon in which you find a magical backpack that allows you to carry all the items you find in order to bring them back to town. The game isn't really targeting people who want a good story, it literally used to not even have one. The only thing you did in the game was spam dungeon runs in a typical roguelike fashion. The story for the most part takes a backseat to the roguelike gameplay. Backpack Hero can be played with a mouse and keyboard and has full controller support if you use an Xbox controller. There's not much info about using other types of controllers. Here's the platforms you can play on. Shout out to being able to play on Mac and Linux so you can goof off with a low resource requirement game while doing coding stuff in digital creation at work. Something worth mentioning here is that you only have 3 save files you can play story mode on. Finally, here's the menu settings. Pause if you want to read any of it. Graphically, the game looks about as good as an 8-bit art style can become. It's very pixelated, which is just a result of the art style they chose, which is fine. The actual sprites and item thumbnails and everything are designed super well and look great, but I gotta say, the combat animations with the sword are a little low effort. Like, you don't actually hit the guys when you swipe your sword. All they had to do is make your character move like 10 feet. Like, here, I'll fix it for you. There's also no voiceovers in the game, you just get a mumbling sound when someone is talking, which is whatever. The 8-bit battle music is kinda cool though. Listen for a sec. Anyway, yeah, since it's basically a NES game in terms of graphics, you don't need much to run it. You could download this bad boy onto a flash drive and smush it into a fucking cheese quesadilla from Taco Bell and it would run at 60 FPS. You can either play story mode or just queue up for a quick game. If you start a quick game, you're right in the action. Pick up your starting equipment and start exploring the dungeon. The game is a cross between a deck builder like Slay the Spire and an inventory Tetris game, which are loved by oh so many people.
That was sarcasm.
Your goal is to defeat enemies while making your loadout stronger and avoiding death. If you make it to the end of the dungeon, you win! If you play story mode, you have all the enjoyment of a quick game with a little lore thrown in too. Story mode starts you out with a subset of items available to help you ease into the game. You unlock items and make them eligible to be acquired in the dungeon by doing quests for townsfolk or doing research in buildings matching the item type. Here's the starting character and the frog character you can unlock. Pause if you care to read what they do. The game doesn't have many mechanics, the combat is turn-based. You're mostly just going to be clicking buttons and doing things. You can click to move, you can interact with townsfolk to get quests or information about the story, you can click and drag items in, out, and around your backpack, rotate and move items around in your backpack to utilize certain synergies based on the item's position in the backpack. Click items to use while in battle. You can click to target enemies. You can click the dungeon map to move to different dungeon rooms. You can open up your atlas to learn about specific game systems and items, and you can acquire upgrades for Haversack Hill, such as getting buildings that generate resources while you're in the dungeon. There's a good amount of different enemies for you to fight against, and all of them have different behaviors in game. Some enemies will just attack and defend. Some enemies will cause hazards in your backpack. Some enemies will spawn other enemies, etc. and so forth. Lastly, at the end of each dungeon, there are bosses, which are typical video game bosses who have higher stats and more interesting mechanics to deal with. There is no multiplayer in Backpack Hero. The best you can do is hop on Discord and share your stream stream, strategize together with one or more buddies to conquer the dungeon. There are no paid cosmetics or pay to win in Backpack Hero. The rat you see is the rat you get. There are items, however, that you can find in the dungeon that can be used to unlock different looks for your character. The main draw and most fun aspect to this game is when you get OP runs with crazy equipment combinations and just slaughter everything in your path. There are, of course, some problems that we encountered. You used to not be able to hit escape to exit menu, however, this was recently patched. I'll point out that it's good that the game is receiving active updates. Sometimes hovering over people gives a description, but the people in the menu don't. Sometimes reward items overlap, making it hard to know that you have multiple items. Lastly, you can get soft lock and be forced to abandon the run because apparently there's a bug where you just randomly don't have a new place to go on the map. Kind of annoying, but this only happened to me once in over 18 hours of gameplay. Overall, Backpack Hero is a great roguelike strategy game with a little extra sauce thrown in as to keep the genre fresh and unique compared to other games. It gives you the player agency to ignore story mode completely if it's not your jam, or you can play story mode and get a little adrenaline rush every time you unlock the next character or item upgrade. There are still some bugs and poor user experience decisions which bring this game down a little, but it's still receiving love from the developers. If you're a fan of games like Slay the Spire and Monster Train, you should definitely give this game a try. On our patented 0 to 1 scale, we rate this game at 0.7000001 out of 1. If you enjoyed this no bullshit review of Backpack Hero, please place your cursor over the like button, take a slice of salami, and throw it onto the left mouse button to click it. Also like the video. Subscribe to Purse's OnlyFans where she reviews backpacks, and then subscribe to FlipBros, and lastly comment your favorite model of backpack. Thank you, good night, and it would be wise to have a backpack filled with camping stuff ready at all times. This way you're not only ready and always prepared to go camping, but you can also dip at any moment and have a survival pack essentially ready to go if a zombie apocalypse, foreign invasion, or natural disaster happens near you.